A country can shift course in an instant. Not always through a speech, a vote, or a formal decision, but sometimes through a voice that was never meant to be heard. Last night, South Africans didn't just watch television, they leaned in. When a senior police official played what he described as a private WhatsApp recording involving the president and a controversial businessman, it was no longer gossip. It became a national moment, one where power, trust, and accountability shared an uncomfortable space together. What emerged on that broadcast went far beyond a single clip or a single name. It raised fundamental questions. Who speaks to whom behind closed doors? How influence travels through the corridors of power? And what happens when private conversations suddenly enter the public eye? And before anyone jumps to conclusions, the key point is that the full impact is still unfolding. Consider this carefully. When private communications involving national leadership reach the public, do we focus on the content, the messenger, or the motive? Context is critical. In South Africa, context shapes everything. The audio wasn't presented with theatrical flair. It was framed as evidence the public had the right to hear. That framing alone changed the atmosphere. Audio recordings carry a unique force. They convey tone, hesitation, confidence, and intimacy in ways that documents cannot. For many viewers, it felt unsettlingly personal, too familiar, perhaps making ordinary citizens question whether the playing field has ever been truly level. This is not the first time audio has shaken South Africa. From leaked calls to secretly recorded meetings, voices often tell stories that written records cannot. Yet South Africans also know such recordings can be selective, edited, or released strategically. That tension between revelation and manipulation is what made last night's broadcast so weighty. The man who made this audio public is not just anyone. Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi is known for being measured, disciplined, and cautious. When someone of his experience speaks openly, particularly on live television, people listen differently, not necessarily because they immediately believe, but because they recognize the risks inherent in speaking at all. For many, the question extended beyond the authenticity of the recording. Why now? Timing in politics is really accidental. South Africa has seen enough inquiries, commissions, and delayed accountability to understand that revelations often surface when pressure reaches a tipping point. And then there was the name that shifted moods across living rooms nationwide. Cat metal. Controversial, whispered about and surrounded by unanswered questions. This name carries weight. When linked, even indirectly, to the presidency, suspicion grows rapidly. Not because guilt is proven, but because trust is fragile. This morning, conversations at taxi ranks were not technical debates about legal standards. There were straightforward questions. Why would the president speak to him? What aren't we being told? Is this just another scandal that will quietly vanish? These questions matter because leadership is evaluated not only in courtrooms, but in kitchens, workplaces, and communities where people feel the system doesn't serve them. What made the moment particularly impactful was that it unfolded live. No editing, no delay, no opportunity to soften the message. Live television strips away safety nets, leaving viewers to experience the rawness of the moment, and raw moments linger in memory far longer than polished statements released days later. Silence in such situations becomes deafening. So far, the presidency's response has been cautious. Some interpret that as responsible, others as avoidance. In South African politics, silence is never neutral. For supporters, it may indicate legal prudence. For critics, it suggests panic. The truth is likely somewhere in between, but perception itself carries power. Political authority relies not only on law but on public belief, and belief is shaped by patterns. Citizens recall past scandals where early denials crumbled under evidence, as well as allegations that faded without consequence. That memory creates skepticism. People want clarity, but they brace for disappointment. This is where institutions matter. Police, prosecutors, and oversight bodies are now under scrutiny. If allegations are serious, due process must follow. If they are weak, that too must be shown openly. Anything less reinforces the perception that rules shift depending on status, and ordinary people feel that first. Confidence in leadership doesn't stay confined to Parliament. It ripples through the economy, service delivery, and community interactions with authority. Compliance, trust, and engagement all decline slowly but steadily. A single voice can reveal more than words alone. As the audio circulates, the deeper story may not be its content, but the insight it offers into access. Who speaks with the president, and who does not? And how that aligns with promises to the millions who feel unheard. No verdict has been delivered. No court has ruled, and restraint matters. Yet vigilance matters too. Democracy isn't only about elections. It lives in moments when the public demands to see what happens behind the curtain. Another pressing question arises quietly. What happens when allegations reach the top of the state? Procedure matters as much as public outrage. Steps, thresholds, and legal safeguards cannot be bypassed no matter how urgent public sentiment feels. Law moves slower than social media. Lawyers weigh decisions carefully. Investigators consider jurisdiction. Each choice carries consequences far beyond a single headline. A misstep risks weakening institutions already under strain, which explains why some officials retreat into caution even as impatience grows. But caution carries costs. Long silences invite speculation, and speculation spreads faster than facts. By the time official clarity comes, public trust may already have eroded. This is not only a political challenge, it is social. Communities feel disconnected from systems meant to serve them. History reinforces this. From past commissions to unresolved scandals, South Africans remember being told to wait, and often being disappointed. That memory shapes reception not cynically but cautiously. Patterns matter within political circles. Loyalty is tested, alliances recalculated, and public statements drafted, revised or abandoned. Support is subtle, conditional, temporary. Power does not vanish. It shifts. Meanwhile, daily life continues. Parents worry about school safety. Small businesses struggle. Communities cope with crime. For many, the frustration is not merely about private conversations. It's about whether distractions delay solutions. Scandals feel heavier when survival already strains. Trust erodes quietly. It doesn't vanish after a single revelation, but fades cumulatively. Each unanswered question and delayed response weighs on it. Over time, people stop expecting explanations and lose faith in promises, turning democracy into a procedural exercise rather than a participatory one. Yet, moments like these also carry potential. They compel conversations power often avoids. They remind leaders that transparency is not optional. It is demanded. Whether this moment results in investigations, reforms, or political consequences remains uncertain, but the public is no longer willing to look away. The deeper question is not just the audio or names involved, but whether institutions respond in ways that restore confidence rather than manage fallout. Credibility cannot be rebuilt with silence. Ultimately, this story is about power, access, and accountability. Until those questions are addressed clearly and honestly, the conversation will not fade. South Africans remember the broadcast left a mirror reflecting leadership, institutions, and society itself. Its questions lingered long after the screen went dark at dinner tables and quiet discussions in communities. Allegations are not convictions, but unchecked power without scrutiny creates distance. What people demand now is clarity, process, communication, and accountability. Without those, uncertainty becomes the gravest danger. Delayed truth comes at a high cost. When controversies linger unresolved, the consequences spread, affecting public trust in police, justice, and public service integrity. Transparency matters. In a digital age, private conversations are really private. The real safeguard is consistent ethical behavior. What is said in public must match private actions. Institutions face a test of principle, not loyalty. Courage more than authority restores confidence. Citizens must stay engaged without becoming reckless, demanding answers without abandoning fairness. This story is far from over. Whether it leads to investigations, reforms, or reckonings depends on choices made in the coming days. Those choices must be made openly, legally, and with respect for the people who bear the consequences. Accountability is not a moment. It is an ongoing process, and South Africa is watching,